All right, this morning we're going to talk about something I'm pretty passionate about: compost. It is free black gold. And this comes from stuff you'd otherwise be filling the landfill with and making your trash can stink all week. So, yeah, there's several ways you can do it, even if you don't live on acreage or are in a suburb that would frown upon the smells that may come from like an open compost pit. But we'll go through a few options and talk about my favorite, which is actually worms, which surprisingly don't smell at all. So um, composting is turning your kitchen scraps into an extremely nutrient dense and well balanced fertilizer that we're going to refer to as black gold. So you're not just reducing your carbon footprint by reducing your landfill and the carbon that's just dissipating into the atmosphere. You're instead making a fertilizer source, a food source for your plants and your garden. It's the cycle that keeps giving back. And it provides microorganisms too, as we'll talk about later with our worms. Like when you go and empty one of their layers of casings, you there's worms in it too, so you're adding worms back to the soil too, which is fine because again the worms are in there reproducing, so you got to get it down anyways. So one of the more common ways, and what most people think of as a compost pile, is like an open air pit similar to this, where you just are mixing in your vegetable scraps with leaves and grass clippings. It can have odors if it gets out of balance or you're not turning it enough with a pitchfork, but that's one that requires a bit more space. A more common one that could work in a suburb is a compost tumbler similar to this one, and you're just putting in some small amounts of lawn clippings, garden clippings, vegetable waste, things like that, and it can actually turn all of that into a compost in 1 to 3 months, depending on how often you're turning it. If you're turning it once or twice a day, it's going to have oxygen delivered and decompose at a quicker rate. So that can be very viable for people that are trying to compost without a lot of space. Here's my favorite. This is the worms that we use. And again, we have this in our kitchen, does not smell at all. You just put your kitchen scraps in there. Sometimes we'll do some lawn clippings if we've got space. More often it's shredded paper that we'll put in with them, but they struggle to keep up with our kitchen scraps for two people. So this is more of a small scale, but it does work with surprisingly small amounts of, takes up no space, and there's again no odor. And from that we usually get like 3 cups of liquid, which dilutes to 3 gallons of fertilizer for our plants. And then the casings themselves, the full decomposition takes about 3 to 4 months. There's a couple charts here to kind of explain what could be best for you. Here's a quick guide in what you can and can't compost. So there are green, the high nitrogen component ones, and then browner materials which have more phosphorus. And then the things that you shouldn't add: diseased plants, pet waste, meat and dairy. Those can attract rodents and are kind of what can contribute to waste because they slow down the decomposition process. So then, yeah, great things to put in there: fruit and vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, grass clippings, eggshells, and then for the brown leaves, wood chips, sawdust. Not too much of those because it can take a while to break down, but shredded newspaper is another good one for the brown list. So that's just some great ways to get started on composting, some options. And like I said, that black liquid gold that you produce, your plants are going to love that. So I'll drop a link to this whole article if you'd like to take a full look to get started on your composting journey. It's awesome, and there are many ways to do it.